Well, the honest truth is that racism emanates from a private space, and from a private space it then broadens its scope outside of that. And that is in essence why the EFF is fighting this. We have no problem with development of societies and townships, but if there is a segregation that is based on racial profiling for any development, then we are going to have a problem with it, because it's on the premise that South Africa in itself comes from a racial background of apartheid, and it is being instituted right here under some pretext of cultural preservation of some sort. It's nothing but narrow-minded Afrikaner nationalism that is embodied in this particular area, and that is what we are calling for. That's why the EFF has always said that the state in itself must always be the custodian of the land in itself, so that we can really stop such things. Because if you look at the background of Kleinfontein in itself, it's under the premise that they are led by Verwoerd, and it comes from that perspective, and we know who Verwoerd is. He was the catalyst in terms of ensuring that there's a system called apartheid that is instituted in South Africa, and they are really just hiding under the guise of a culture. But if the cultural practice in itself is in discrimination of a particular race in South Africa, we're going to call for it as the EFF, because we are a non-racist organization. Most deaf, in the pretext that this community exists on the face of racism, means that there must be no such a place that exists in South Africa. Like in many other areas, by the way, there are no black-only areas in South Africa, and there should be no whites-only areas in South Africa. And that's the reason why we are here to say that this place must be. We are not even willing, by the way, to speak to any representative of AfriForum. We are not willing to engage any member or any person or citizen that stays in Kleinfontein, because they know that they are inherently racist themselves, and therefore they know the EFF stance on it. No, it's an abuse of the constitutionality and the rights of and the human rights in essence. They cannot be read out separately. So you cannot infringe on the right of one another over the fact that when you think that your rights supersede that. And as we said, we have no problem with development and the establishment of townships. But once there's a racial profiling thereof, it's an infringement of the majority of the black masses of South Africa, which are black in nature and which have been systematically always been oppressed in a democratic dispensation, by the way. This is a simple abuse of the Constitution of South Africa to carry out a narrow-minded political agenda of AfriForum and of whiteness. The best way to categorize it is white supremacy at its highest form.
They tried it with Orania and failed. Now, like vultures circling what they think is weaker prey, the EFF has turned its fury on Kleinfontein. Not because of crime, not because of corruption, not even because of any real legal violation, but because it represents something they can't control. A working, functioning community that doesn't wait for handouts or bow to the madness of political theatre. You need to pay attention, because what they're doing to Kleinfontein is not a protest, it's an ideological siege. And if you think your community is safe once they're done here, you've already lost. Before we get into the hard truth, do this. Hit the like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Let the ads run for at least 30 seconds. It helps keep this platform alive and independent. And if you want to see more content that doesn't pander, hit that super thanks or join the channel as a member. Because the people coming for Kleinfontein would rather this kind of voice disappear. Let's not give them that satisfaction. This is not about Kleinfontein anymore. It's about the idea that if you dare to live outside of state dependency and ideological conformity, you must be destroyed. Let's not mince words. After their populist ambush of Orania fizzled into political theatre, the economic freedom fighters needed a new target to fan the flames of their crumbling revolution. And they found it. Kleinfontein. A quiet, structured, largely Afrikaner community near Pretoria. No riots, no looting, just people trying to preserve their culture, speak their language, live their values, and stay out of the circus that is South African politics. But to the EFF, that is unacceptable. Why? Because self-sufficiency is the ultimate rebellion in a system built on blame. Kleinfontein was founded in 1992, not with government grants or special treatment, but with determination and a vision. It grew from a few dozen to over 1,200 residents, all Afrikaner, all adhering to a strict entry code, Afrikaans-speaking, Protestant and culturally aligned with Voortrekker heritage. It's not politically correct. It's not mainstream. But it is legal, protected under Section 235 of the very constitution the EFF claims to defend, and that's what enrages them. The EFF doesn't want constitutional clarity. They want constitutional conquest. They want to reshape South Africa into a place where cultural autonomy only exists if it fits their revolutionary brand. And when Orania stood its ground, when its unemployment stayed at 2%, its crime rate nearly zero, and its economy kept growing, they panicked. Because Orania showed that blaming apartheid and colonialism isn't a policy. It's an excuse, one that no longer holds up against real-world results. So what does the EFF do? They shift targets. Enter Kleinfontein. Smaller, less media-savvy, lacking the economic infrastructure of Orania, but equally dangerous to the narrative. Because just like Orania, it exposes the lie that only government can provide. Kleinfontein builds its own homes, runs its own utilities, maintains its own safety, not because it's rich. Many residents live in tents, struggling to survive, but because they refuse to sit and wait for government scraps. That's what terrifies the EFF. On 2nd May 2025, they marched, not for jobs, not for service delivery, not against crime or corruption, but to dismantle a cultural community they see as symbolic of everything they hate: order, identity and independence. Julius Malema and his party call it neo-apartheid. They label Kleinfontein racist, regressive, even illegal, despite court rulings that leave its legal status ambiguous at best. They demand integration, not because it improves lives, but because they can't tolerate an example that proves their ideology doesn't work. The hypocrisy is breathtaking. The same politicians who preside over towns where sewage runs in the streets, where schools collapse, where crime rules the night, those same voices claim Kleinfontein is the threat to national unity. Not the gangs, not the failing municipalities, not the hijacked housing projects. No, it's a handful of Afrikaners living without handouts. Let's call this what it is: ideological vengeance, dressed as social justice. Kleinfontein, like Orania, is not perfect. It bears symbols that offend. It celebrates a past many wish to forget. But here's the brutal truth. None of that is illegal. You may hate it, you may reject it, but unless you're ready to rip up the Constitution and declare war on cultural self-determination, you don't get to destroy it. And if you do try to destroy it, don't pretend it's about unity. Be honest, it's about power. Let's talk about the EFF's selective outrage. Where were their marches when black-owned land projects failed due to corruption? Where's their anger when state housing collapses from poor workmanship? Where's the fury when Eskom cuts power to entire townships for weeks on end? They vanish. But let a community of white Afrikaners build something clean, structured and functioning, and suddenly it's a national emergency. This isn't justice. It's jealousy. That's why they hate Kleinfontein, because it exposes the lie. That race, that history, that injustice are no longer the true obstacles. The real obstacle is will, the will to stop begging and start building. The EFF does not fear racism. They fear competition. They fear a community that works. They fear people realizing they don't need the state to survive. And so they come with threats, with marches, with symbolic violence. But here's the truth they can't march away from. Kleinfontein didn't fail. Orania didn't collapse. Despite the noise, despite the media attacks, despite the political venom, they're still standing. And standing tall. What's at stake here is bigger than two Afrikaner communities. What's at stake is the very idea that you can opt out of dysfunction, that you can choose to live differently, that you can say no to failure and yes to structure, even if that structure offends the powerful. This is not about whiteness, it's about independence, and the EFF knows it. So here we are again, another attack by the EFF, dressed up as justice but fueled by envy, failure, and obsession with control. They couldn't dismantle Orania, now they've set their sights on Kleinfontein, hoping no one notices. But we notice, and we will speak, because what's happening here isn't just about Afrikaners. It's about the right to build something different, to live by your own values, and to protect your culture, even when it's unpopular. If Kleinfontein falls to mob politics, then every community that values self-determination is next in the firing line. Don't just watch this and scroll. Share this message, comment, subscribe, and let the ad run at least 30 seconds. It costs you nothing, but it funds a platform that refuses to stay silent. Hit that super thanks if you believe this message matters. And if you're tired of hearing the same lies from the same failed politicians, here's your wake-up call. Build something, or be destroyed by those who never will. I'm out. See you in the next one.